Ya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're studying Bhakti Vaibhava, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, chapter number 10 today. Is it chapter 10? Right? So let me go to the PowerPoint. Let's see. Share the screen. Everyone okay? Can see the PowerPoint?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes,
okay, good. Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan. Looks like. Okay. Lesson number 2, departure of Lord Krishna for Dvārakā. So we began the chapter and we covered this first section about how Sutta Goswami replied to Shonaka Rishi's question. You remember Shonaka Rishi wanted to know how did Maharaj Yudhisthira rule, because he was very disturbed after the battle of Kurukshetra. He couldn't even eat. He didn't have appetite for his food. He was not taking his food. He was feeling so guilty. So we heard how Maharaj Yudhisthira ruled and how the whole planet became very prosperous. Everyone was satisfied. Everyone was taken care of. It was a very nice situation under the rule of Maharaj Yudhisthira. So today we're going to go on and speak about Lord Krishna's departure for Dvārakā. Remember, we heard in Kunti's prayers, she was torn between the two. Should Krishna go to Dvārakā because he has his family there, or should he stay in Hastinapur where his relatives are? And we'll hear about the ladies of Hastinapur and how they appreciate Lord Krishna and how Lord Krishna responds to their prayers. So there's 3 sections in this chapter. We'll hope we'll complete this chapter today. So Lord Krishna has very nice relationships with the Pandavas. Maharaj Yudhisthira, like his older brother. At the same time, Maharaj Yudhisthira knows that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Lord Krishna takes pleasure when his devotees accept him as less important in terms of love. Lord Krishna takes pleasure in this wonderful intimacy, in the intimate dealings which he enjoys between his devotees. We could have, maybe you'd like to give some other examples of where Krishna enjoyed being in the subordinate position to his devotees. Yes? Some hands? Some very obvious ones? Yes? Whose hands are up?
Murali Manohar.
Murali Manohar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Maharaj. I was thinking specifically of Mother Yasoda binding Krishna.
Right.
Very
Yeah,
much so.
the one which immediately comes to mind. And we know that Lord Krishna, in the Damodar prayers, how is it described? It's described that this dealing between Mother Yasoda is more pleasing to Krishna than
the prayers of the Vedas, isn't it? Some of the more
right, yeah, the recitation of the Vedic mantras.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. And you have some other examples, some other hands are up, maybe different ones?
Vinay Damodar Prabhu's got his hand up.
Hare Krishna. Hare. Maharaj, Krishna, he drove the chariot of Arjuna.
Lord Krishna becomes the chariot driver of Arjuna, so he takes the subordinate position. You know, we hear in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, Arjuna telling Krishna, all right, take my chariot into the middle of the battlefield. I want to see who is assembled here. So although Lord Krishna is the supreme controller, he's taking instruction from his devotee. He's become the servant of his devotee. Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Prabhu.
And, any more examples?
Mahavir Rupa Prabhu got his hand up.
Okay, Mahavir Rupa Prabhu.
Maharaj, Lord Krishna as a child, he put the of his father, foster father, Nand Maharaj, on his head. So he loved his father, and though he is the supreme personality of Godhead, but still he basically.
You're not very clear, Prabhu. Could you do something about your microphone there?
Okay, Maharaj, am I clear now?
A little better.
Okay, what I'm saying is, Lord Krishna put the shoes of his father, Nand Maharaj, on his head.
Okay. Lord Krishna why?
Because that was a loving relationship. He wanted to show respect to his father, and that was a loving relationship, in a paternal relationship. So in the paternal relationship, father was given respect by Lord Krishna.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We still have one hand up. Chandrika Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maybe we can say Sandipani Muni, the spiritual master of Krishna.
Sandipani Muni gives initiation or gives instruction to Lord Krishna. All right, yes, why not? Krishna comes to the Gurukul Sandipani Muni in Avantipur, or now it's called Ujjain. Krishna and Balaram came there. How long did they stay there in the Gurukul of Sandipani Muni? Anyone?
64 days.
64 days, yes. 2 months, just over 2 months. And what did they learn?
64 arts, Maharaj.
Yeah, yeah, 64 arts, okay. Of course, Lord Krishna doesn't need to learn anything. Why did he go then to the Gurukul?
To show example, Maharaj.
Yes, right. He teaches he wants to show the example that we should all study, we have to take shelter from a spiritual master, we have to take instruction. Okay, so there are many nice examples where Lord Krishna takes pleasure in subordinating himself before his devotees. Okay, so Lord Krishna is preparing to leave, but he's approached by Maharaj Yudhisthira. He's approached by the Pandavas. They cannot bear him to leave them. They've been associating with him. Of course, he's been with them in the battle of Kurukshetra, and the thought of him leaving them is unbearable to him. Having got the association of the Lord, they don't like to lose it. But Srila Prabhupada explains here, the Lord being absolute, however, separation from him is as good as personal contact. His remembrance by his form, quality, name, fame, pastimes, etc., is also attractive for the pure devotees. So much so that he forgets all forms, qualities, name, fame, and activities of the mundane world. So this is a nice point, that we want to get free of Maya, where we become absorbed in the thought of Maya, as described here, the name, fame, form, fame, activities of the mundane world. How to get rid of these thoughts of the mundane world? We have to fill our mind with thoughts of Lord Krishna. We have to practice remembering Krishna. So this is the process of Krishna consciousness, chanting the holy name, discussing the qualities and pastimes of the Lord. And when we fill our mind with thoughts of Krishna, then we cannot think of the mundane world. So when we're remembering the Lord, then we will not feel the separation from him, because by remembering his qualities, we'll be able to associate. So, due to his mature association with other pure devotees, he is not out of contact with the Lord for a moment. Due to his mature association with other pure devotees, he is not out of contact with the Lord. In the association of devotees, devotees will naturally discuss topics of Kṛṣṇa. Right? There's a famous verse in the third canto from Kapila Shiksha, Satam prasangam amavirya sambido bhavanti ritkarana rasayana kata. The topics of Lord Krishna, when heard in the association of pure devotees, are very pleasing to the ear and to the heart. So in the association of pure devotees, there will be discussions about Krishna. When we come for association, that is the real business of association. Neophyte devotees, sometimes they have difficulties understanding this, that we come together not to discuss the home or the family or the climate or the politics, but we come to discuss topics of Krishna. So in the association of devotees, our only business is to talk about Krishna. And in that way, we won't feel any separation. Rather, we'll feel the presence of Lord Krishna with us. Okay, so here's a beautiful painting of Lord Krishna. And you can see how he's being escorted. This is, of course, this is the reception. We'll be discussing this later. It doesn't come up right now. I don't know how that slide got in there. Okay, so here's a quote from one of Prabhupada's purports here. Prabhupada's talking about topics of Krishna. He says, just like we are presenting so many books about Krishna, simply we have tried to explain Krishna with all these translations. Nothing but Krishna, how to understand Krishna. So here it is called Sarva Shruti Manohara. Krishna is very pleasing to hear. Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure. This actually comes up in relation to topics, the ladies of Hastinapur describing topics of Krishna, and it's described to be more attractive than the Vedic hymns, right? Why would topics of Krishna be, why would the topics of Lord Krishna chanted by the Hastinapur ladies be more attractive than the Vedic hymns chanted by the Brahmanas? So it's described here that Krishna is Sarva Shruti Manohara. This is very pleasing to hear about Krishna. Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure. So when we talk about Krishna, there's no difference between talks about Krishna and Krishna himself. There's great pleasure in talking about Krishna, topics of Krishna. So we get so much pleasure in reading the Krishna book. Been reading it for so many years, but it's never dry. It's never wasted. I was listening the other day, you know, that the Minister of Education, Tapana Mishra Prabhu, has this program where he has interviews different senior devotees, and they talk about the importance of reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Are you also listening to those interviews? Any of you?
I didn't know they even exist.
Nobody.
Maharaj, I didn't know they exist, these interviews.
Oh, really? Oh, you're missing out. Every week they're posted on the internet, every week, regularly. And he's interviewed a number of senior devotees. So just the last week there, he interviewed Devamrita Swami. And Devamrita Swami made a nice point, because Tapana Mishra Prabhu brought up the topic. He said, you know, people say, oh, I read the book, there's nothing new, you know, it's the same, I've read it before, there's nothing new. And so Devamrita Swami brought out the point. He said, you have to understand that reading Prabhupada's books, it's not just to get information. You know, sometimes people think there's nothing new, they're just collecting information. But he said, it's not so much the information which is important. He said, what's important is transformation. You know, and I thought this is a really good point, you know, because we do have that tendency sometimes, we think, oh, there's nothing new, you know, I didn't get anything out of it that new. But he makes the point that reading Prabhupada's books it's not just to gather points of information. You want to transform, it's transformation which is important. And by hearing about Krishna and discussing Krishna, you can really feel the spiritual potency. We actually transform our consciousness. Our mind becomes purified by hearing about Lord Krishna. It's great solace for the mind. So it's very good. I encourage you, you know, you want to find out these interviews and try to listen to them. I'm sure they're all stored there on the internet somewhere. I think it's maybe under what, strategic planning or something. I think called Books of the Basis. And he talks about reading, the importance of reading, because, you know, we have this ongoing thing, encouraging the devotees to read. Because if a devotee will develop the habit of reading Prabhupada's books, then they will never go away from Krishna consciousness. It's very important. over the years, you see so many people come, and it's so sad when they go, because you work so hard to bring people into Krishna consciousness. And if after some time they go away, Prabhupada used to speak about it. He said, we shed gallons of blood to make one devotee. And if they go away, then it's such a shame. So how to keep them in Krishna consciousness? So it's very important that they get a taste for reading Prabhupada's books. It's not, that people talk about distribute Prabhupada's books. Distribute books, very good. Oh, okay, nothing against it. But if they don't read them themselves, then what's the good? It's very, very important that to actually understand the importance of distributing Prabhupada's books, you have to read them. And that's why, having these classes like what we're doing, studying Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, it's really helpful for us to increase our reading and to get us to really absorb our mind and thinking carefully about this philosophy. Okay? So this was Prabhupada's lecture. He's in London, must be maybe Bhaktivedanta Manor. When we get our attachment for hearing about Krishna, then at least we can consider that we have become free from material contamination. When we get attachment simply for hearing Krishna, nothing else, all nonsense, then you should understand you have become liberated. Oh, very nice. We haven't got Krishna Prem yet, but liberation is the beginning. Our devotional service really begins on the liberated platform. So we have to get this attachment simply for hearing. So important. Lord Chaitanya gave so much emphasis on hearing, right? Do you remember? When did Lord Chaitanya give emphasis on hearing? Have you studied this? Anybody? In Bhagavad Gita, where does Krishna talk about hearing, the importance of hearing? You've all studied Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Shastri. Do you remember Krishna speaking about hearing? Yes? Sachitanai Das. Sachitanai Das has raised his hand.
Yes, Maharaj. Maharaj, regarding is test 9 and 10, I have one doubt. That's why I have raised my hand. Can I?
Okay, what's your doubt?
It's written Gautama. Gautama means Kripacharya. So, right?
Huh? What?
In test 9 and 10, it's written Gautama. Gautama, the translation is Kripacharya.
Okay.
Prabhupada writes. So Kripacharya is the same who was fighting at the side of Kaurava.
Yes.
Full Guru of Kaurava.
Yes.
My question is, in what circumstances Kripacharya didn't get any punishment? He was fighting from other side, and he was witness also during the Draupadi's Vastraharan time, and he was fighting against the Pandavas. But everybody almost in Kaurava side got punishment, but Kripacharya didn't get any punishment, and he again joined the Pandavas as Kulguru. So, can you please elaborate?
Oh, you're going back there. This is the previous chapter, really, isn't it?
No, this is the chapter 10, text 9 and 10. In that sloka Kripacharya, it's mentioned.
Okay. Well, I'll think about it. I don't know offhand. Anybody has any suggestions about this? Any comments?
What was the question?
Kripacharya is asking about Kripacharya. He said Kripacharya was present when Draupadi was being disrobed. He didn't do anything to stop. And Kripacharya was fighting in Kurukshetra war. He was fighting against Pandavas. Well, Kripacharya is guru, right? He's a guru. So maybe he wasn't a great fight. Maybe he wasn't so much trouble for the Pandavas that he managed to stay out of it. Dronacharya, he was big. He was really fighting and he was really killing. So they had a hard time against Dronacharya. He had to be killed. But we don't hear about Kripacharya much in the battle of Kurukshetra. We don't hear about him being involved. He doesn't have a very prominent position. So because he's not very prominent, he didn't get punished. That's one way of seeing it. But his sister, Kripi, is that right? His sister is, or his daughter is Kripi. She was the mother of Ashwatthama. What was the relationship there? The mother of Ashwatthama, what's her name?
Kripi.
Kripi. Kripi, right? What's her relationship with Kripacharya?
Sister.
Is it sister? Maybe.
Yes.
So there's punishment there. There's disgrace there. But Ashwatthama took the punishment. All right, coming back to our topic, we're talking about the importance of hearing. Lord Chaitanya always gave great emphasis on the importance of hearing. The particular example is there when he met with Ramananda Rai. And he asked Ramananda Rai to give a verse from the scriptures about the perfection or the goal of life. Remember that conversation at the Godavari? And Ramananda Rai begins, first of all, he talks about Varnashram Dharma. Lord Chaitanya said, go higher. No, that's external, don't go higher. And then he talked about Karmarpana, offering the fruits of our work. Lord Chaitanya said, go higher. And then he spoke about Swadharma Tyag. Lord Chaitanya said, keep going. And then he gave a verse about Jnana Mishra Bhakti. And Lord Chaitanya said, keep going. And then finally he came up with a verse from the 10th canto, which spoke about hearing. That one should hear, stay, that, you know, that stane stita shruti gatantan van manobir, Prabhupada often quotes, that you stay in your position. You don't have to change your situation. You stay whatever ashram you're in and you hear about Kṛṣṇa. And in this way you conquer Kṛṣṇa. So that's there. That was what Lord Chaitanya said. Yes, this is pure devotional service. He said, now discuss this. So this is the example how Lord Chaitanya emphasized hearing. Similarly, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna spoke the yoga ladder. At the end of the 6th chapter, the yoga ladder was described. Yoginam api sarvecham madgatena antaratmanam, right? Of all yogis, the highest yogi is the one who's in devotion. Then chapter 7 begins, right? Lord Krishna says, now hear from me, O Arjuna, how by practicing yoga and full consciousness of me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So hearing Prabhupada explained, this is the beginning of the devotional process. Shravanam, we have to hear before we can chant. So hearing is always emphasized. You have to hear regularly, because we want to strengthen our creeper of devotion, strengthen our faith, our consciousness of Krishna. So we get that by hearing. And we have to develop this taste for hearing. And we would just want to hear about Krishna. We don't want to hear about anything else. You know, there was a person called Ganta Karn. Did you know Ganta Karn? Ganta is a bell and Karn is an ear. He put bells on his ear, right? And whenever the devotees would come chanting Hare Krishna and telling people about Krishna, shake his head. He'd just shake his head, then he would only hear the bell. He said, I don't want to hear about Krishna. So some people are like that. They don't want to hear about Krishna. They put bells on their ears, they shake their head. They don't want to hear Krishna. But the devotee is very eager to hear about Krishna. Very important for us. Okay, well, let me see. Maybe we'll go to the text, because there's not a lot of information here in these PowerPoints. Let me change it to the text. Okay, can you see this? Are you able to see the text?
Yes,
Are you
Maharaj.
okay?
Yes,
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah, okay. All right, so okay, we're hearing about separation, and Prabhu mentions Kripacharya is described there, that he's also feeling separation from the Lord. So somehow he has some affection for the Lord. And Prabhupada talks about the feelings of separation exhibited by different devotees. Particularly, he speaks about Srimati Radharani and the feelings of the gopis when they came to Kurukshetra and they met with Krishna there. And this is a classic example of the separation between Krishna and the gopis, that they seek Krishna, but they're not able to just go and speak to him. Krishna's there with all of his wives. Okay, then, so Prabhupada then, well, the text goes on to describe more about the glories of the Lord and how the separation from the Lord. And in the purport, Prabhupada gives an example here. He said, I've marked it here. He says, by association with pure devotees and by having them submissively and by hearing them submissively, attachment for material enjoyment becomes slackened. An attraction for hearing about the transcendental activities of the Lord becomes prominent. Once they will go on progressively without stoppage, like fire in gunpowder. It's a very interesting example Prabhupada's given. I've never heard it before. He says, like fire in gunpowder. You can imagine you put fire in gunpowder, it's just going to go, right? It's not going to take much time. So that's how our devotion for Krishna should become, that when we develop the real taste for hearing about Krishna, that our consciousness of Krishna will just explode. We'll just become so mad after Krishna. We'll become so attached to hearing, become so eager to get that association with Krishna. Oh. So we're hearing about the separation from the Lord. They looked at him without blinking their eyes, and they moved hither and thither. So this is real attachment to Krishna. Just like when we go to see the deities. We go to see the deity, we want to really absorb our consciousness in seeing the form of the Lord. All right? Once this relationship is slightly revived, the conditioned soul at once becomes freed from the illusion of material energy and becomes mad after the association of the Lord. So we also can associate with Krishna. We associate with Krishna through the deity, through the holy name, through the Bhagavatam. This Bhagavatam is none different from Krishna, right? The question was asked in the first chapter that Lord Krishna, when he's present on the planet, he's the personification of all religious principles. But now he's departed from the world. Where are the religious principles found? Right? Who remembers the verse? What's the answer?
Krishna Swadama Pagate Dharma Gyana Dibisaha Kalau Nashta Drasham Mesham Purana Rako Adonditaha.
And translation?
After leaving the Krishna to his own original abode, he left this Bhagavatam is the knowledge, and the he left after Krishna left to go on his own abode. The knowledge and the jnana is left in the Bhagavatam, and in the Kali Yuga, those who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of Kali Yuga, they can get the light and knowledge from this Bhagavatam.
Right. This Srimad Bhagavatam is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna for his own abode. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of this age of Kali will get light from this Purana. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada said, if you read the Srimad Bhagavatam carefully, one day you'll see Krishna in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So this is what we want. We want to see Krishna in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. So going ahead, we hear about the female relatives, and they're, ladies, they're feeling separation from Krishna, so they want to cry. Tears will come in their eyes. They could not stop their tears. It's very difficult. They thought the tears would be inauspicious. They thought not very good, but difficult for them. I've marked this section: directly or indirectly, anyone who thinks of Krishna, talks of Krishna, or worships Krishna becomes attached to him. So for them, these people in Hastinapur, they're directly with Krishna. And we're also indirectly with Krishna, you could say, because Krishna is not physically manifest, but we're feeling the presence of Krishna through his pastimes and the association of his devotees and so many other ways. Okay, and going ahead, we hear about the different drums which they're playing because the Lord is leaving, so they want to make it auspicious, and they're playing the different drums, so many different types of drums and instruments, all sounded together. And then text 16 describes that the ladies of the Kurus, they go up onto the top of the palace, smiling with affection and shyness, and they showered flowers upon the Lord. Now, usually we shower flowers when people come. We don't often shower flowers when they go, right? I haven't seen that too often when people are leaving that they shower flowers. But when people come, certainly when Prabhupada would come, we'd welcome Prabhupada, flowers and everything. So throw flowers on him and everything. There's some beautiful pictures. There's one especially Prabhupada coming to the temple in Paris, and the devotees are out there and they're throwing flowers onto Prabhupada. Very beautiful. So it's a very nice reception. Anyway, the point here is about shyness among the female members. Shyness. And Prabhupada writes here in the purport that shyness is a particular extra-natural beauty of the fair sex, and it commands respect from the opposite sex. We hope it commands respect from the opposite sex. It's meant to anyway. Only a beast would not give proper respect when the women display the quality of shyness. But a civilized human being would have great respect for the ladies when they display the quality of shyness. So I want to hear from you, how can we display the quality of shyness? In what ways? How should the ladies act? What are they? Maybe they're supposed to put their sari over their head like this, you know? Is that shyness? Prabhupada didn't like that. If the women came with their sari way over their head like that, he said, this is not how you wear your sari. He said, you just put it on top of your head. You know, you don't have to cover your whole forehead. And so sometimes people would go to extreme. So what do we expect from women? You know, how many women have we got here today in the class, by the way? How many ladies are here? Yeah, how many ladies are in the class here today? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 ladies, is it?
There's 6.
6. Oh, 6 ladies. Okay, good. So we've got 6 ladies to tell us. And we'll hear from the men what they expect, how they expect women to display shyness. And we'll ask the ladies also to tell us how they present themselves, what is their normal behavior in presenting the shyness, because it's such an important point. So maybe we can make some groups, Maharaji?
Hare Krishna.
Yes? We want
Maharaj, we can obey what they say, what the men say, by that, and we should give them respect, respectfully obey, that way. That's it. Thank you.
Is that Padma Sundari speaking or who?
No,
No.
it was Karunatara.
Maharaj,
Oh, Karunatara. Oh, okay. Now, Maharaji, could you just wait? Maybe we'll put you in groups and you can discuss in groups and come up with some points together that you all agree on, and we'll compare what the men say and what the women say.
How many groups you want me to make, Maharaj?
Well, if we have 6 ladies, maybe that could be maybe 2 groups, 3 ladies in each group.
And the men, Maharaj?
How many men have we got?
I have to count, Maharaj.
22, 16.
Well, 16. Oh, quite a few. So 3 groups.
Okay, Maharaj.
3 groups of ladies, 2 groups of ladies and 3 groups of men. And just write down some points which you think should be there to preserve the shyness. Is that okay? Yeah?
Yep.
Maharaj, I need 1 minute for making the rooms.
Okay. You shouldn't need a lot of time to do this. I think 5 minutes will be enough.
Mahamani Prabhu and Madhumati Mataji, you are in one go. So what should I do?
Fine, Mataji. Yeah.
I'm assigning you to the ladies' room, Mataji.
Okay.
Prabhu can keep quiet. Let the ladies talk.
Yeah.
I open the rooms. Kindly please join. Rivanga Sham Prabhu, could you please join the room? Okay, Maharaj, they joined the rooms.
Thank you.
How many minutes, Maharaj?
5.
Okay, Maharaj.
So everyone's back already, or they need a minute?
They're back.
Okay. So can we hear from the ladies group? Let's hear from one ladies group first.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I am Karuna Tara. As others chose me, so I wish to say it as according to them. Prabhuji, actually, ladies showed shyness. How they showed shyness is was a point.
Karnatara Mataji, you have to call him as Maharaj.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm so sorry, Maharaj. I'm really sorry. Thank you, Mataji. Okay. Our point was how ladies show their shyness towards men. So first of all was, as others said, they don't talk about the subject, not interested for men, to men. And the second one was, they show respect to men and they listen to them obediently. And then the first, they don't mix up freely with men. Most of the time, as they think it might be, wrong to mix up like that. And for
Okay.
example,
Okay, so they keep separate from the men.
yeah, that way. And Prabhupada Prabhupada also gave an example to show shyness towards women. He said, Prabhupada said he considered women an inspiration towards men, like inspiration towards men, as though they might be very powerful, but they try to act low. Like example, he gave Julius Caesar. And like shyness also contributes to chastity by dressing up properly. So they try to dress up properly towards, in front of men, that way. That were my points.
What does proper dress mean?
It might be like covering your body with.
Okay, the body should be covered, right? Yeah. Body. What about the head and the hair?
It depends whom you're facing. Like if you're facing a son, or anyone, they will not. They might not cover. But if it's a husband or any devotees, they should cover that way. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Maharaj. Sorry.
Okay. So the other ladies group, do you have any other points or anything you disagree with?
No, Maharaj, we didn't reach there. No, sorry.
Karnatara Mataji, Maharaj is talking about the other group. There are two groups.
Okay.
Group number 2, room number 2, ladies.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yeah, most same points. We were thinking of having the gross way and the subtle things in the behavior. So gross points were like dressing appropriately, and there are more details like covering the feet and covering the hair, and yeah, in dressing also not tight fitting dresses even if it is covered, and no open hair, and in terms of and also things like there are certain things which can be distracting, like a lady shouldn't sleep in front of a man, like a man shouldn't see a woman sleeping. That is not this thing, lying down in front of a man like that, the gross ones. And then in terms of subtle, the behavioral aspects, like speaking softly and with compassion and care and love, and talking only when it is necessary, and not trying to grab the attention of men, being polite and not trying to get the attention, doing things which is getting the attention, and yeah, respecting everyone, not just men, everyone. So Prabhupada says like women should behave like mothers so that men can treat them like mother.
Oh, very nice.
So
yes.
this,
women should behave like a mother so men can treat them like mothers. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, now we'll hear from the Prabhus. We have
from room 3.
Room 3, yes. Who's the spokesman for room 3?
Not sure the numbers on it.
There were no numbers, I think.
Room 3 had Asaf Prabhu, Dineshwar Prabhu, and Tribhanga Prabhu. Janmashtami Prabhu, you are from room 4, Prabhu.
Room 4, okay.
So I would speak for room 3.
Yeah, go ahead.
So all the points that Mataji just said are very nice. We have one point which is in addition. It's very similar, that a woman, chaste woman, is not trying to attract the men. Someone brought up the modern day offices, how a woman can stay shy and chaste in the modern day offices. So we said that by not trying to attract the men's senses, and also not associating freely. Yes, Maharaj.
Not associating freely and not deliberately trying to attract the men.
Yes, correct. And also we mentioned humility and submissiveness in particular cases.
You know, could you speak up a bit, Prabhu? Your voice is not very clear.
Yes, I'm sorry, I have a sore throat, but still I was chosen to speak. So we also mentioned humility and submissiveness, where submissiveness is relevant in certain cases.
All right. The importance of humility and being submissive, not arguing, challenging. Okay. Let's hear from another group.
Krishna Maharaj, can you hear me please? Am I audible?
Not very. You guys get really close to the mic.
Okay, I'll get closer to the mic. Actually, in the group 4, the devotees, they made very good input for shyness. They said that women won't dress in provocative way, which is very common in the modern world, to attract the opposite sex. And as a devotee or as a civilized person, he will be very much impressed with women who keeps her eyes down. So that lady will become devotionally attractive. And this shyness has been given as a natural gift by the material nature. And though in modern society, there is no discrimination between males and females, they are mixing with each other. So to exhibit shyness, women can interact with other males other than their husband through her husband, so that there is no mixing of freely. And that way she can basically get respect from males, because if the women, they don't mix freely with other males and they communicate with and through their husband, then it is more respectful for that woman. So these points they came out. If I missed out any point inadvertently, kindly, I humbly request other devotees to kindly help me.
Well, I'm a bit puzzled to hear this. You say men and women should mix together and it's no problem. But this is not quite the point which is made in the purport. You're saying so long as the husband is there, she can be with the husband, and she can be with the husband and all the other men.
Other devotees to kindly help me, because these points they came out.
Okay, all right. That's what came out. Let's hear from the other group. There's one more group.
Trimanga Prabhu, could you please mute yourself? Group 5, Veeragopal Prabhu, your group. Whoever is the speaker.
Hare Krishna, no one's coming forward, so I guess by default, I can present the points that I brought up in our group. One point to help preserve the chastity or shyness of the ladies is to not unnecessarily force them to speak in public, like give class or come in front. Sometimes I see that where Mataji may be somewhat senior, and so she's sometimes pressured to speak. You know, some ladies find it quite okay, but others not. So we should give them the space to maintain that shyness if they don't want to speak in public or in front of a crowd. It's a practical thing I've seen. Sometimes ladies are forced to do that, and they find it very difficult. Also, we mentioned that men should be aware of their roles, and the ladies as well, in society, and shouldn't shouldn't overlap. We should understand the principle of how men behave and how women behave. Of course, that's a big subject, but we should be aware of the basic principles. And this was also brought up again in our group, that there should be separation between men and ladies. Prabhupada mentioned that a few times in his purports. He mentions this is actual culture. And one place I think Prabhupada says that without that, then it's just like animal life. So Prabhupada made that point that there should be a separation between men and women as far as possible, I would say. And also mentioned about we should be careful of modern education. Modern society doesn't imbibe these principles, it imbibes the opposite. So one devotee very nicely brought up that we should, ladies should take training from cultured ladies, senior ladies or mothers who come from more cultural background and imbibe the principles of how to behave as a lady in society. So if anyone from the group, there's something I missed, you can please, or you want to emphasize something, please, you can do that.
I just wanted to
Yes,
just add,
yeah.
if I may, that the men need to protect the women. Sometimes I feel that women have to be stretched to behave in a way that is not by default their nature because they don't get the protection. So that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Very much. Very nice analysis there. Some very interesting points. I appreciate some of these things, especially this point about giving protection. The duty of the man is to protect the woman. And sometimes that's why the women don't want to leave the man, you know, and especially you get couples married, you know, and the woman said, no, I have to be with my husband. She doesn't want to leave her husband. And it's a problem. You know, sometimes you make arrangements, the men will take prasadam here and the women there. Oh no, I have to be with my husband, you know. Very tricky situation, but certainly in the temple, we do have the standard, you know, women on one side, men on the other. Although actually it was in some temples like you have the women at the back and the men at the front. And in Los Angeles, Prabhupada told the women they could go up on the balcony and they could be up there and they could be at the back rather than at the front, and let the men be in the front. And so the separation, the segregation of the sexes, of the genders it is important. Certainly it is important. We do want to try to encourage that. It's also important, you know, women should be properly, they should understand the significance of coming before the deity. If they come with their hair untied and hanging all over their face, all right, you know, they're not initiated. All right, if they're not initiated, but at least the initiated devotees, those who have taken initiation into Krishna consciousness, they should strictly follow the standards. They should set the right example, hair tied up and sari over the head, some portion. It's important to show that the dress does make a difference. And the behavior also, the talking, as Prabhu said, asking women to talk, it's not really something we want to do. We definitely don't want to force women to talk. Some women are very good at it. And I think even in Bhaktivedanta Manor today, you have a temple president, you have many temples with women temple presidents, isn't it? In USA, kind of common.
Yeah, there's 3 prominent ones in America.
Yeah.
And Yadavara's wife, Vishaka and Manor.
Yeah, so we have a few ladies there taking leading roles as managers, administrators. But it's certainly not in India. You wouldn't find that in India, never. And so in India still, we have some semblance of the Vedic culture. But everything, time and place and circumstance. Tamal Kṛṣṇa Maharaj said that Prabhupada had said to him that he would have made Yamuna Mataji a GBC, only she was a woman. So because she was a woman, he didn't put her on the GBC. So Prabhupada did see some difference there. Certainly. So these ladies like Janava Mataji, who was the guru after Lord Nityananda departed, she became the Acharya. It's described that she was very shy. She was not prominent. She did not take a big prominent role, but she was certainly spiritually powerful and spiritually pure. And the chastity is a very important part of that, where they get that spiritual potency from. So Prabhupada explains, he said, shyness is a check to the unrestricted mixing. It is nature's gift and it must be utilized. So it means there should not be unrestricted mixing. We expect ladies to cultivate the quality of shyness by their dressing, by their behavior. You know, if you get a young woman who comes to the kirtan and she starts dancing in a very wild fashion, you know, then it certainly will create a big kind of upheaval. There was, they told me, devotees told me how there was one young woman, she came and she started dancing wildly, and her mother came and grabbed her and threw her out the temple. Her mother was chaste. The girl was not, but the mother, she checked the behavior of the girl. She wouldn't allow her daughter to dance wildly and create a big stir in the temple. So proper behavior from the ladies is important, and proper behavior from the men. We have to give protection. The ladies are under the shelter of the men. Okay, we'll go ahead. So,
Raj, I have a question. Can I ask now?
well, all right. If it's in relation to the topic.
Yes, very much in relation to what we spoke in men about about what you're talking about the kirtan. How fanatically the lady was dancing and they checked my mother. Similarly, we also have here in the in the Western world, like the harinams being led by ladies. The ladies just go in the front and dance, then the men lead it. Like men follow them, which I feel bit not very confident. Go in the front and dance before. Is it how it was before in the roads and the public places? Like ladies go dancing in the front and men follow. Is it how it used to be, or how it should be? Your suggestion and advice.
Well, this is something which has been introduced in recent times, and some parts of the world, like Russia, Eastern Europe, they have this thing, that they let the ladies come and dance. But it wasn't customary during Prabhupada's time. We never saw this. But there were lady dancers, just like at Jagannath Puri. We hear about dramas which were performed there in Jagannath Puri, and how Ramananda Roy, he would train these young girls to dance. But the point is also that these dancers were very young girls. You don't let, older women come and start dancing and, making a show in front of a lot of men. So it's certainly, this is a controversial point, Maraji, you brought up. There is some different opinions about this. Some people, they think this is good. Yeah, let the ladies do it. They'll attract people and let the ladies go in front and dance. But not everybody's in favor of this. Some people, they think it's good and get people interested. People like it. And other people, they don't like it. They think this is not Vedic culture.
That kind of behavior directly contradicts what Prabhupada says here. It enhances their beauty and prestige, even if they're less important family. So that shyness is ultimately even more attractive.
Yeah. Of course, a lot depends on how they dress. We often find, women are not so much familiar with covering the body. Although they wear a sari, and the sari is meant to cover the body, they often don't do it. It doesn't facilitate in the dancing and moving their arms around. One time Prabhupada was on a flight, Indian Airlines flight, so the air stewardess was in a sari. And when Prabhupada came off the plane, the air stewardess, she took her sari and she put it over the head of Prabhupada to protect him from the sun. But Prabhupada was shocked. He thought, this is not proper. She shouldn't do like this. This is not chastity. She's lifting her sari and exposing her body. Although she's offering service to Prabhupada, but Prabhupada didn't appreciate it. He thought this is not the proper behavior for a woman, chaste woman.
Maharaj, I had one point a comment. In the mid-'80s, Satsvarup Maharaj, who had so much association with Prabhupada, gave a Bhagavatam class, which prompted me to ask a question. I was the Sankirtan leader in the Washington temple, and most of the money that was coming in the temple was something that I organized, through the Sankirtan. And the temple treasurer was a lady, and it was so difficult to get her to give any money, like for maintaining the vans or anything. It was just like super intense. So I asked Satsvarup Maharaj, how did Prabhupada feel about women being in leadership positions? And he said that Prabhupada was not at all inclined because the men would feel uncomfortable. And that's exactly how I felt at that time. And apparently Prabhupada never placed any woman in a leadership position, whether it be temple president, as you said, GBC, Jamuna, what Tamal Kṛṣṇa Maharaj said. And then I recently was in a temple and worked under a lady temple president. And whew, boy, was it ever uncomfortable for me. I'm not saying it in a critical way, but just descriptive based upon this principle, of shyness. And this was just kind of the opposite of that, my experience in that situation. So anyway, now there's a tendency to kind of catch up with Western culture that's developed within our movement, at least in America, maybe in other places. And I really feel it goes against what Prabhupada taught. Even to use the word Mataji, I would get chastised for that. No, Prabhu. So, really heavy,
Krishna. Yeah, I think that you've made a good point there, that they think we have to catch up with Western culture rather than understand what is the real culture we're presenting.
The rationale behind it was that otherwise modern women wouldn't be attracted to join. But it wasn't that way with Prabhupada when he was president, and he was really pushing Vedic standards.
Okay, we have to go on. Thank you, Janmastami Prabhu. Okay, so then we hear, at that time, Arjuna, intimate friend of Lord Krishna, took up an umbrella. So we saw that photograph with that painting, beautiful painting. Arjuna carrying the umbrella over the head of Lord Krishna, the white umbrella. And Uddhava and Satyaki begin to fan the Lord. So this is actually the deity worship. This is the system for the Dvārakā Yuga, which was deity worship. You can see Arjuna holding the umbrella over the head of the Lord, and Uddhava and Satyaki fanning the Lord. That's the system in the previous Yuga. And then we had, all right, so the benedictions being paid to Krishna. Well, we hear about they're giving benedictions to Krishna, neither befitting nor unbefitting, because they were all for the absolute. Yeah, you give a benediction to Krishna. Krishna is Bhagavan. He has everything. So I've noted here, therefore, the sounds of benedictions uttered by the learned brahmanas here and there appear to be contradictory in relationship with the absolute person. But When they are applied to the absolute person, they lose all contradiction and become transcendence. So that's the point. Whatever benedictions we give to Krishna, it's transcendence. All right? And so then we hear about the words offered by the ladies on the rooftops of Hastinapur, that they're talking, remember, the transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna, and this talk was more attractive than the hymns of the Vedas. Why would it be more attractive than the hymns of the Vedas?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Prabhu.
Because they directly talked about the Lord Krishna directly, rather than indirectly. The hymns of Vedas may not be, they may be directly, they may be indirectly, but the talks of the ladies, they were talking directly about the Lord.
Yes, that's one point, right? Any other points? While the ladies on the tops of the houses in the capital of the kings of the Kuru dynasty were talking about the Lord, their talk was more pleasing than the Vedic hymns. And Prabhupada explains, anything sung in the praise of the Lord is Shruti mantra. So the talks of the ladies, this is more pleasing than the Vedic hymns, because the Vedic hymns are uttered just simply by the Brahmanas. They may not have the feeling of devotion, but these words of the ladies, this is coming from their heart. This is the representation of their love and devotion and appreciation for Lord Krishna. So the language of the ladies of Hastinapur is more pleasing than just these hymns of the Vedas. Prabhupada said the language is immaterial, but the subject matter is important. The ladies were all absorbed in the thought and actions of the Lord, developed by the consciousness of Vedic wisdom, by the grace of the Lord. So the people reciting Vedic hymns, they're not going to be like that. It's more mechanical recitation. But here's the ladies are speaking from the heart, and they're absorbed in thought and action of the Lord. So it's so wonderful. All right, so more pleasing than the Vedic hymns. He, the original Lord, they glorify him, that he's the cause of the creation. Everything comes from him. The living entities are placed under the guidance of material nature. By his own potency, material nature is empowered to recreate. So describing the ladies of Hastinapur are speaking the philosophy, describing about the nature of material creation. And they say, here is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose transcendental form is experienced by great devotees, who are cleansed of all material consciousness by dint of rigid devotional service and full control of life and the senses. That is the only way to purify existence. So the ladies have really understood what you have to do to purify existence. You have to perform devotional service. You have to control the mind and senses. Then we can actually awaken this real love for Krishna. Here's the very personality of Godhead, whose attractive and confidential pastimes are described in the confidential parts of Vedic literature. Right? The confidential parts of the Vedic literature are Srimad Bhagavatam, particularly 10th Canto. In the Vedanta Sutra or Upanishads, there is only a hint of the confidential parts of his pastimes. But his form, name, quality, and paraphernalia have been elaborately distinguished from matter, and therefore he is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent persons as impersonal. If you just read the Upanishads, then we'll think like that. We'll think the Lord is impersonal. But when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we can understand very clearly he's a person, and he has qualities, and he has associates, and he has energies, and he has pastimes. We have to hear from the proper source. So we say, Vedeshu durlabham adurlabham atma bhakto. Very difficult to know the Lord by the Vedas, but very easy to know him by the devotees. So Prabhupada talks about hearing from the Mahajans, and in the purport, he mentions the names of all the Mahajans. And he explains that we want to hear, he said, the confidential parts of his activities are described by the confidential devotee, Sukadeva Goswami. So this Srimad Bhagavatam is spoken by Sukadeva Goswami. He's able to describe the confidential parts. We're going to hear about some of the confidential activities of the Lord. So the next verse, the ladies of Hastinapur, they talk about the kings and the administrators, that if they live like animals, they're in the lowest modes of existence. But the transcendental form of the Lord then performs wonderful activities, manifests various transcendental forms as is necessary in different periods and ages. So the ladies are describing how the Lord appears in different forms, different places, performs different activities, wonderful activities, right? What are some of the superhuman acts of Lord Kṛṣṇa? You know, usually we will always mention he lifted the Govardhan hill. What are some of the other superhuman activities of Lord Kṛṣṇa? Give one, Murli Manohar.
Establishing Dharma through the Bhagavad Gita.
Spoke the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
Where?
Killing of Kamsa.
Kurukshetra.
We want superhuman activities. Somebody may say, "Oh, spoke the Bhagavad Gita." You know, I could also write my book. You know?
Sorry, Maharaj, I misunderstood. So he married 16,108 wives.
Yes, thank you. That's a good superhuman activity, right? Yes. Chandrika Maharaji, you have your hand up.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. He bridged the Indian Ocean.
It's Lord Rama. He crossed the Indian Ocean.
Yes, in the form of Rama.
He made a bridge, right, to go across the ocean. All right, thank you. And Rasa Sekar?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, he has killed demons like Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksh, all these things.
Well, they killed some demons, but you get mass murderers, they kill, you know, they come and kill people.
There were all these he played that pastime.
Okay. Yes. Anybody else? Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Sriram Nitai.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, he appeared from a stone for his devotee Bhakta Prahlad.
He appeared from a pillar. Okay. Yes. In order to protect Bhakta Prahlad, not Bhakta Prahlad, but Prahlad Maharaj. Bhakta means a new devotee. We could say Raja Bhakta, but I shouldn't just say Bhakta Prahlad, but Prahlad Maharaj. Prabhupada writes in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Bhakta means neophyte devotee. So Prahlad is not a neophyte devotee. If we say Bhakta Prahlad, it's not correct. He's a Raja Bhakta, or he's Prahlad Maharaj, right? So Lord Nrsingadev appeared from a pillar. Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj.
And Vinay Damodar?
Hare Krishna Maharaji. Shri Krishna saved Parikshit Maharaj within the womb of Uttara.
Oh, okay. We may have difficulty to support that. How do we know that was actually Krishna who saved him in the womb? A little tricky to prove that. All right, anyway, he performs many wonderful superhuman activities. And then we hear about Lord Krishna's conjugal love. Particularly, we hear about Lord Krishna accepting 16,100 ladies. These 16,100 ladies are described as fallen ladies. Why are they considered fallen? Yes, Sachitanai?
Yes, Maharaj, these ladies are called as, described as fallen because he was under King Bhaumasura.
Okay. So, Vinay Damodar Prabhu, maybe you can explain to me what's the Vedic custom? What makes a woman fallen and a woman not fallen? What's the difference?
Hare Krishna Maharaji. When women, because women should be protected in childhood by father, and then husband, and then son. So if woman is out of their protection, then they are considered as fallen, because in those cases these women were out of the protection of their father, and they have to stay nights in protection of that king. That's why.
Right. Yeah. So their chastity is damaged. Right?
Yes, Maharaj.
They've lost their chastity. Can you give some other examples like that? Women lost their chastity and were rejected?
Maharaji, for people say about Sita Maharani also, about that.
Okay. People say Sita Maharani was taken by Ravan.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Mahavirya Prabhu, Mahavirya Rup Prabhu. Any other example?
Amba, Ambika, Ambalika.
Oh, yes, right. That's what I was thinking also. Yes. Bhishma kidnapped the three sisters and brought them for wives for Vichitravirya. But one of them said, which one said, I'm already engaged. I already have a fiancé. And so he told her, then go back. You go back to your fiancé. And when she went back to her fiancé, he said, no, I don't want you now. You've been touched by another man. Don't want anything to do with you now. You go. So she came back to Bhishma and said, you ruined my marriage. You should marry me now. It's a problem for Bhishma. Okay. So 16,100 ladies were considered fallen by society. They'd been put in the palace or in the prison of Bhaumasura for his enjoyment. And Lord Krishna accepted all of them as his wives. Why?
Because nobody will marry them.
What? Kamalangi Madaji, what do you say? Kamalangi, are you speaking something?
After losing their chastity, they could not face the society. That's why they begged to Krishna to get married.
Hare Krishna Maharaj ji. Hare Krishna
Yeah,
Maharaj.
let me see some hands. You want to answer, you want to speak something better, you raise your hand. All right, so Rajashekar, you want to say something, Rajashekar? What is it?
Hare Krishna Maharaj ji. Because of the sincerity of purpose, because they were sincere in prayer. That's why the Lord has married them.
They offered prayers. They
Yeah,
offered
they offered
sincere
prayers.
Yes, Maharaj.
and the Lord reciprocates with the desires of his devotees. If somebody wants to be the husband of the Lord, if somebody wants the Lord to be their husband, the Lord is happy to accept them as his wife. So of course, all of these ladies, were they just ordinary women? Who were all these ladies who became Krishna's wives?
They are the ones.
Hare Krishna
Yes,
Maharaj.
we'll ask some Mataji to answer. So Mataji can tell us, who are these 16,100 ladies? Do you know their identity?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
They were expansions of Lakshmi.
Yes, right. They're all expansions of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. Yes. And so they were not ordinary ladies, but they were put into this position. They were kidnapped, taken from their father's home, put into the prison house of Bhaumasura, and they prayed to Lord Krishna to deliver them. And the Lord came and he killed Bhaumasura, and then he accepted all the ladies as his wives. And he married each and every woman. And Srimad Bhagavatam 10th Canto describes how the Lord expanded himself, and at the same time they performed the Vivaha Yagya for each and every lady. And Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva and Devaki, the mother and father of Krishna, they also came to the wedding, and they also expanded themselves so that they could take part in the Lord's weddings. So all these weddings were performed at the same time. So this is the inconceivable potency of the Lord, that he can perform all these wonderful activities. So what about the Lord's conjugal affairs, right? Can you say something about the Lord's conjugal love? Do you know anything about the different aspects? You know, is the Lord's pastime in Dvārakā the same as the pastimes in Vrindavan? Who can comment on this? Any hands are up? What about Murari Prabhu? You haven't said anything today?
Yes,
You know
Maharaj.
about the Lord's pastimes in Vrindavan and the Lord's pastime in Dvārakā? Are they the same?
Yeah,
The conjugal love?
yeah. The pastime is in Vrindavan. They are more. How to say? The devotees there, they doesn't know the who Lord actually is, but the ladies in Dvārakā, they know Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead, but the gopis, they knew him just a cover boy. So it was more intimate relation with the Lord.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, there's more intimacy in Vrindavan because the gopis in Vrindavan, they simply know Krishna as a cowherd boy. They're not thinking of him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in Dvārakā, they have more understanding. Another point also about another point, there's another important point, that in Vrindavan, Krishna is not married to the gopis. But in Dvārakā, he's married. He's married to these queens of Dvārakā. So there's Parakiya rasa in Vrindavan and Swakiya rasa in Dvārakā. So that is a big difference there in the conjugal pastimes of the Lord. Parakiya and Swakiya. The Swakiya married life is, you know, the not so much intimacy, not so much maybe it's not quite the same, right? After the greatest pleasure comes before the marriage. After marriage, then, oh, yeah, my wife, yeah. But before the marriage, it's very different. There's more excitement, more emotion, more feelings there. The intensity is greater. So Lord Krishna enjoys the greatest love in Vrindavan, but at the same time, he also enjoys family life in Dvārakā with all of these wonderful queens who are expansions of the goddess of fortune. So we're also told about the wonder of Dvārakā. Text number 27 describes, undoubtedly it is wonderful that Dvārakā has defeated the glories of the heavenly planets and has enhanced the celebrity of the earth. So the earth has become famous because of Dvārakā. So what is so wonderful about Dvārakā? Or Prabhupada talks about holy places. He talks about Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dvārakā. No Mayapur. Just only Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dvārakā. These three places are highlighted. So what is so special about these holy places? Why is this Dvārakā better than the heavenly planets? Right, text 27. Any answers? Why these ladies are glorifying Dvārakā as being better than the heavenly planets? Could you know, usually people, they want to go to heaven. But Dvārakā is even better than the heavenly planets. Why?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes? Who's this?
Because at that place, when you do devotional activities, manifold, there are devotional activity get many more times there, and you get direct association of the Lord. As the Lord is there, because the place and Lord is same.
The place and the Lord is the same.
Yes. Yes, Maharaj. Dham.
The Dham.
Dham and Lord.
What is the significance of the Dham? Dham means a place where the Lord resides eternally. He's living there eternally. Of course, sometimes he's manifest, sometimes he's not. If in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita describes the difference between Goloka and Gokula. Now, what's the difference? In Goloka, the Lord is always visible there in Goloka. In Gokula, sometimes he's visible. He's there, but sometimes he's visible, sometimes he's not. So Dvārakā is also like that. We say Dvārakā Dham. Mayapur Dham, Vrindavan Dham, means the Lord resides there eternally. He's living there eternally. It's his residence, his abode. So what about heaven? Is the Lord there? Anybody? Doesn't the Lord go to heaven? Anybody?
Hare Krishna.
Yes?
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Can you hear
Krishna.
me?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, are you hearing me? Can you answer?
Yes, Maharaj, heaven planet is within this 14 planet, within this Brahmanda. And Dvārakā, Mathura, these are all planets in spiritual world, in Golaka. And Lord
Dvārakā is here in this world.
Yeah, that's true, but Dvārakā is Lord Krishna's eternal abode.
Yes, Prabhupada, what does Prabhupada give the example? He said like the embassy of the spiritual world, right?
Right.
Like you go to the consulate, if you go to the American consulate, you're in India, you go to American consulate, it's like being in America. You go to the Russian consulate, it's like being in Russia. You go to Chinese consulate, it's like being in China. And you go to Dvārakā, it's like being in the spiritual. Dvārakā is also there in the spiritual world. But the Dvārakā here in this world is like the embassy of the Dvārakā there. None different. So living there in the Holy Land in Dvārakā, certainly very powerful. Why? Why is it so good to live in these holy places like Dvārakā or Vrindavan? What's the benefit? What benefit do you get?
Will not come back to the material world.
Well, you
Back to the material world.
Huh?
You'll not come back to the material world.
Well, you may not know you're in the spiritual world. You may not know. You got to have some understanding about the place you're living there.
Yeah.
You don't just visit. You don't. Prabhupada said you don't go to Vrindavan just by buying a ticket to go there. How do we actually enter? How can we actually enter the Dham?
Devotional service to the Lord.
Yeah, we have to change our consciousness.
Yes.
Who is a wonderful example of a person entering the holy Dham? In the 10th canto it describes Akrura coming to Vrindavan, right? He's coming to Vrindavan to get Kṛṣṇa and Balaram, going to bring them to Mathura. And Akrura is thinking how he's so fortunate. He comes to Vrindavan. And then what happens when he gets to Vrindavan? What happens? Anybody?
They were thinking that it is Krishna.
Huh?
The inhabitants were thinking that gopis, they were thinking that he is Krishna because
No,
is,
no, not Akrura.
Oh, sorry, it was Uddhava.
No, Akrura came to Vrindavan and he saw Krishna's footprints on the ground. He recognized it, all the marks of Krishna's footprints on the ground, and he rolled in the dust, took the dust of the Dham all over his body. And Prabhupada said, this is how you enter the Dham. Right? So we have to purify our consciousness like that. And come in the holy Dham, it's a place where we can remember Krishna. Remembrance of Krishna is so much easier in the holy Dham because there's so many places of Krishna's pastimes. Just like here in Mayapur also, we have places of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. We should all, and these pastimes are going on here eternally. The pastimes are going on. We may not see them, but they're going on. Krishna dances Rasa Leela every night in Vrindavan. The Rasa Stala empties every night. Nobody stays there because they know Krishna's coming. Krishna's coming to dance Rasa Leela. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada was staying here in Mayapur. He went out in the night and he actually met the Sankirtan party of Lord Chaitanya. It's here, it's going on eternally. But we have to be pure in consciousness to see it. So this is, in this place, in the Holy Dham, it's so much easier to remember Krishna. And also, you get a lot of benefit. Doing devotional service, you get more benefit here. I'll just see some of the quotes I've marked here. Dvārakā. Three places, namely Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dvārakā, are more important than the famous planets within the universe. Dvārakā is certainly more important than the heavenly planets, because whoever has been favored with the smiling glance of the Lord shall never come back again to this material earth, which is certified by the Lord himself as a place of misery. So whoever has been favored with the smiling glance of the Lord, where are we going to get that favor? Of course, we get that. You go and see the deities. I hope the deity will smile at you when we go there to see the deity. Not only this earth, but all the planets of the universe are places of misery, because in none of the planets is there eternal life. Okay, because devotional service in these three places is magnified, those who go there to follow the principles in terms of instructions imparted in the revealed scriptures surely achieve the same result as obtained during the presence of Lord Sri Krishna. His abode and he himself are identical, and a pure devotee under the guidance of another experienced devotee can obtain all the results, even at present. So this is the wonder of the Holy Dham. Certainly people who go there are very fortunate, just like people who were able to be with Lord Krishna 5,000 years ago. Certainly they were very fortunate. So the ladies of Hastinapur, they glorify about the Lord's queens in Dvārakā, how they were so fortunate to be his wives, to live with him like a wife, and to enjoy tasting the nectar from the lips of the Lord, and to serve the Lord. And they talk about the gopis, the damsels of Brajabhumi would faint. They would often faint just by expressing such favors. So this is the wonderful prayers of the ladies of Hastinapur. We hear they mention about the children of the different queens. We'll hear more tomorrow about the queens, the 8 principal queens of Lord Krishna. Okay, so, all right, we talk about the 16,100 queens who were taken from Bhaumasura. After Lord Krishna had killed Bhaumasura, he was able to marry each of them. And text number 30 said, all these women auspiciously glorified their lives, despite their being without individuality and without purity. They'd lost their purity, but they glorified their lives. Their husband, lotus-eyed Lord Krishna, never left them alone at home. And Lord Krishna describes how Lord Krishna would please them as a husband, how he was very, he acted sometimes like a henpecked husband, following them around and smiling at them, pleasing them. Prabhupada writes, women, merchants, and laborers are not very intelligent. Thus, it is very difficult for them to understand the science of God or to be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. They are more materialistic and less than them are, and then Prabhupada mentions all these different races of people who are addicted to sinful acts. But he said all of them can be delivered if they are properly engaged in devotional service of the Lord. And then Prabhupada talks more about their sincerity of purpose made them at once pure by virtue of devotion. The Lord therefore accepted them as his wives, and thus their lives became glorified. So their sincerity of purpose. Kṛṣṇa knows the heart of everyone. Of course, he's the super soul in everyone's heart. So he knows the sincerity of purpose behind everyone. So in this way, the ladies are glorifying Lord Kṛṣṇa as he's leaving Hastinapur. And we hear Maharaj Yudhisthira follows Lord Kṛṣṇa out of the city. He accompanies him some distance. He doesn't want to leave him. But Lord Kṛṣṇa tells Maharaj Yudhisthira, you have to go back. The Lord, for some time, he's playing the part of a subordinate in his transcendental sporting. Puts himself in the care of Yashodanandan for the protection and its so-called helplessness of childhood, right? We talked about that. Okay, so Maharaj Yudhisthira is sent back, Lord Kṛṣṇa continues, and he goes on. Finally, he reaches to Dvārakā. And we're told how when the Lord is traveling at different places, he would perform his evening rites. And it's mentioned, Prabhupada talks about the importance of being the example. The way of teaching properly is to show by example. Sometimes, however, he does something extraordinary, not to be imitated by the living being. Just like Lord Kṛṣṇa dances Rasa Leela and he picks up the Govardhan Hill. We cannot imitate these things. Prabhupada said, one cannot imitate the sun, which can exhaust water even from a filthy place. The most powerful can do something which is all good, but our imitation will put us into endless difficulty. Okay, are there any questions or comments? Anyone?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Prabhu.
In the laptop that was shared in the last class, we had a wallpaper of lotus footprint of Lord Kṛṣṇa.
Yes.
So if possible, I request most humbly and respectfully, I request for the Lord Kṛṣṇa's lotus footprint image and Srimati Radharani's footprint image, and also the significance of the symbols which are there in the Lord's footprint and Srimati Radharani's footprint.
What are you asking for?
The photograph of the footprint of Lord Kṛṣṇa and the significance of the symbols in the lotus footprint.
Well, there's a little booklet you can get which describes the significance of all of these different symbols. I suggest you go and get the booklet.
Okay, Maharaj.
It was published some time ago by Mahanidhi Swami. But it's all about all these different symbols. It mentions each and every symbol and tells you significance. It's a very good book, very interesting. It has all the symbols and it tells you their location and their significance. It's a translation of a book by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Some years ago, Mahanidhi Swami put the book out.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj Sachitana Das. Maharaj, in text 28 in Prabhupada's purport, written that the Lord, just 28.
Yes.
Yes. Written that the Lord stayed at Vrindavan till the age of 16, and his friendly relationship with the neighboring girls were in terms of Parakya. So, as far as I know, when Akrura came with invitation to Mathura, Krishna and Balram left Vrindavan at the age of 11. If I'm not wrong, please correct it.
Well, there may be some mistakes here, some errors, and these things can be corrected. Jayadvaita Swami didn't like to edit anything anymore because he got so much criticism when he edited the Bhagavad Gita. So many people complained. So, it's not a big issue. What age was Lord Krishna when he left Vrindavan? I don't personally know myself exactly the age. What's important to know is that the Lord did leave Vrindavan and how he left Vrindavan. What was the age? Prabhupada wrote these purports a very long time ago. This is the first canto. Prabhupada was living in Delhi. He published the book on his own. So he was working alone at that time, doing everything and letterpress. And so he didn't get a lot of time to check on everything. So I don't know if it's right or not. But is it very important to you? You see, I made the point. You see, that we're not doing a study on information, but transformation.
Yes, that's true. But Prabhupada also mentioned in 10th canto, in Akrura section, when Krishna and Balram left Vrindavan, he was about 11 years. That's where the doubt came.
Okay. And it's not a critical point, not a crucial point. It's not going to change anything. Anyway, thank you for the information. Certainly, sometimes it's good to know these things. There are different opinions. Sometimes we find some mistake here and there. As I said, Jayadvaita Swami, he knew there was a lot of editing to be done in Bhagavatam. He didn't want to touch it because it's such a sensitive thing. People are so sensitive. Oh, how you can change anything, Prabhupada's words, how you can do it. So, but maybe if you go to BBT, if you go to the BBT and they have a whole list of compilation of all the different errors which are there, and you can check yourself. People who do translation work, they're often given the list of all these errors, and they can, when they're translating into another language, they can correct these different kinds of mistakes. Okay. All right, any other question, comment? All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Go back to Vrinda ki.
Jai.
Bye.
Hare.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Dandavad pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.